sleep deprivation, getting soldiers to stay up, not get tired, and they were using something that actually comes from cocoa, a flavanol that was. This project was conducted with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency
DARPA.
And the Salk Institute and the Mars company that makes Snickers and Milky Way bars. Okay, so this is just another example of some weird science being conducted.
Well, they're looking to put
Pentagon.
regular additives in things, tweak them slightly, and manipulate the public. Yeah. They now admit that all these DARPA programs are looking at manipulating and creating super soldiers. They're testing it on them. We've seen that happen with Delta Force, and they kill their whole families. Remember that event 5-6 years ago at Fort Bragg, where 4 groups came back and killed their whole families. Well, one guy didn't. He beat the program, but the police said he was flopping around and yelling when they pulled up in front of the burning house. Exactly what this guy's doing. He now looks all drugged up. Please continue.
Well, it's interesting. I found a quote from Terence Sejnowski, who's with the Salk Institute for Biological Studies and the director of the Computational Neurobiology Laboratory. And he commented that a lot has changed in their study of the brain. And he says, since the early 80s, we now know a lot more about the brain. And then he added this, perhaps more than we need to know. Now, that's a pretty strange comment. That's sort of like the guy where they were running the drill, the training drill in Douglas County near Aurora, who said, yeah, this is a very strange coincidence. We happen to be running a drill on a shooter shooting people in a movie theater at the same time the actual event was taking place.
And throwing smoke bombs.
Yeah, so, so I'm looking at this like I looked at the Jared Loughner case, who killed federal Judge Roll and disabled Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. I mean, I was told by people in Arizona who worked with the FBI that he was an MK Ultra product, and I am firmly convinced that Mr. Holmes, James Holmes, was also involved in some experiment. Now, was he involved willingly or unwillingly? Isn't it funny? The Anschutz Medical Campus will not release any records of his time at that medical school, nor will other universities he was associated with in the past release any information.
Well, we know what they do now. The cutting edge is what they call vaccines, but they're really live viruses that are really nanotech. They're programmed to go in and eat certain ganglia in the brain in certain nerve centers. And the reason they know where to attack is that it has to be ganglia absorbing a certain chemical or endorphin or hormone. So they go where those are available and destroy them. Then drugs can be added to manipulate the interfaces. It's very sophisticated, but I've read the papers on it. And that's what they're moving to in pharmacological crops, to basically, without people understanding it, phasing it in where the general public just incrementally are turned into biological androids.
Right. It's also interesting that Holmes's father, Dr. Robert Holmes, worked with a company that was a partner of DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. Now, this DARPA outfit does a lot of this weird science, okay? They spend all this taxpayer money on
research.
Futuristic research. It's actually, I've been told by people in the Pentagon, it's a huge washing machine where they launder intelligence agency money through DARPA to come up with a lot of strange things that Congress would never, in its right mind, approve of on a line item budget thing.
What do you make of the timing? We're obviously going to have to hold you a little bit in the next hour, so move Joel Gilbert. He'll be all right, because I want to get to these calls from people in Colorado for you, folks. Stay there. We want to hear from you. 800-259-9231. What do you make of the timing? Obama says in the next 2 weeks he's going to sign the UN treaty. They need just a few votes in the Senate. Didn't have them. This push for restricting guns. What do you make of the timing of this?
Well, it sure took a lot of other stories off the front pages, that's for sure, including all the investigation of Mr. Romney's money offshore with Bain Capital. he's got to be really happy about this. Because
that was really starting to hurt him, the whole Bain Capital thing, and he wouldn't stand up for himself and stuff. Yeah, that's interesting.
Absolutely. Also, Dr. Robert Holmes, father of James Holmes, the company he worked for was called HNC Software. It was in San Diego, and they merged later with a company called FICO. Now, they say he now works at FICO, which does a lot of predictive programming for people and for the credit industry, to make sure that people who are using credit cards, it's actually them. But they use neural networking to do this. So he was involved in a lot of this neural networking research himself, and so was that company. And they had contracts with DARPA.
You know what else is funny? I want you to get to that, but I want your take on this. I'm sure you'll know this. Most people don't. Theodore Kaczynski volunteered for the MK program. We didn't find out till a lot later when they declassified some of that, but he was a volunteer. So you volunteer, but you don't know what you're volunteering for. And, of course, he was the Unabomber.
Well, sure. And you look at the whole history of MK what do you find? You find Timothy Leary, who promoted the use of LSD, was part of that, as was J.D. Salinger, the author of Catcher in the Rye. And remember how many presidential assassins where they would go into their apartment and they'd find they only had a couple of books, but one of them was always Catcher in the Rye. This was the case with David Chapman, killed John Lennon. It was the case with Arthur Bremer, who shot George Wallace. It was the case with a lot of these presidential assassins. So I think they also found a copy in Timothy McVeigh's place. So has Batman replaced, nobody's reading anymore. They're going to movies. So has Batman replaced Catcher in the Rye as the triggering mechanism?
Yeah, and to explain that, I made a video a month ago saying this film has triggers in it for violence because I could just watch it and see that. It's just incredible that these films are just backdrops for brainwashing. I want to go back to some calls now, and I want to get deeper into your views on this and then the big NSA scandal that's coming out. But we're going to go to Julian and Greg in a moment. But Joe in Colorado, you were on earlier, but we had to go to break, so I held you over. You're a veteran. You're there in the area. You're saying you're not buying it. What do you make of what Wayne Madsen's been saying? And then go ahead and make your other point.
It leads all back. You just follow, who's involved, and, you go deeper into it than what the media is telling you, and you're always going to find, some things that you need to ask more questions about. So I agree with them on that. About the culture, like I said, in the military, we would see a lot of things, and guys would giggle and think it's funny, and I was the one that was kind of thinking, what's going on? That's kind of the reason why I got out, and, that's what's going on with society. They think the things is funny, and it's just kind of sad, man, but, the people that are waking up, they're going to do what's right. And, I just pray for everybody because things is about to get out of hand,
God bless you, sir. I appreciate your fine points. Yeah, that's what I took away from watching Batman last night is I don't think of myself as some really smart hotshot. And I talk to adults and people, and they're like children. And I guess it's television. Wayne, do you get the point I'm making about more and more, either people are awake or they're getting more and more dumbed down, where they're like children and they have this Pavlovian preconditioned response to just giggle about everything?
Yeah, and you have to wonder about predictive programming techniques in Hollywood. I would note that on August the 10th, we're going to see the premiere of the new Born Legacy movie, the newest in the series by Robert Ludlum, and although it's like a super version of Jason Bourne, Treadstone was actually it's fictitious, a CIA assassination program, but Treadstone is absolutely MK Ultra. If anyone has seen the Bourne movies, you'll know that. And Ludlum,
it's incredibly accurate from what's declassified. They really did that.
That's right. I'll also note that James Holmes is the grandson of Lieutenant Colonel Robert Holmes, who was one of the first graduates at the Army Language School, now the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, one of the first graduates in the Turkish language there in about 1948. So we now have a link between Holmes and at least his grandfather, because once you graduate from that school in one of those languages, you're obviously going to go work under official cover for the CIA or the Defense Intelligence Agency. In this case, it would have been Turkey. So there's a link there. The other thing I would note, it's very strange, is the car that Holmes drove to the theater and had Tennessee plates. Now, what is the link to Tennessee? We're told he was from San Diego. He went to University of California at Riverside. What's the link to Tennessee? I haven't seen anything more on that. That's
and the witnesses are saying multiple shooters. Stay there, Wayne. Great points. A lot of other points on this. Why would they do this now? And then we're going to go to Julian and Greg straight ahead. We're going to go to you right after this break with Wayne Madsen. We'll keep him about 15 minutes and then get our next guest on.
Let me ask you a question. What does freedom mean to you?
Democratic operatives urged Obama to seize on attacks. Paul Watson has the big report out with all the different video clips and their own internal documents and public statements about using terror attacks to take our liberties, including mass shootings, and how great mass shootings are for Obama. The whole article is there, right there, and I hope that everybody goes there and watches the different video clips where they talk about it and say it. In fact, I'm going to get him to add the part about Oklahoma City. I mean, he's got it in there, but even Glenn Beck saying they're getting ready to stage it and blame it on us. Because they say that. Boy, we're going to have an Oklahoma, we're going to blame it on them. They don't say they're going to do it. They say, we're going to have one, we're going to blame it on them. Like saying, that bank's going to get robbed next week. We're going to blame it on this guy. Who's the first person you go to? Hey, you said that bank was going to get robbed. It got robbed. Why don't you get up against the car? We're putting handcuffs on you. Instead, it's like, oh, yeah, so... Wayne Madsen, you pointed at Romney, though, saying it's got a lot of stuff out of the news. I mean, Romney's not in control of the Justice Department and stuff that ran fast and furious. I mean, isn't this their M.O., Holder and people from Oklahoma City?
Well, yeah, I mean, this whole fast and furious thing, which I still also think was to destabilize Mexico, to get this guy, this New World Order guy, the new president installed down there. It looks like they stole that election. The two opposition parties anywhere claiming it happened. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cheap political shots being made right now. I don't often listen to Sirius Radio, but I was listening to Tom Hartman's program yesterday where he brought your name up. He started talking about the right wing fringe that wants guns and it mentioned you in particular and debunked all these conspiracy notions about Colorado and I think he mentioned you in the same sentence with David Koresh. It's amazing. He's got a program on RT. I don't know what happened to that network, but he's clearly funded by the Center for American Progress, which is the George Soros finance think tank that basically acts as a policy toadies for the White House.
Well, there you go. There you go. Think Progress is run by Soros in the White House. It's on record. They have meetings weekly there. And they basically called for us to be shut down last week. And now you tune into the radio and Hartman, who used to be an okay guy, I used to get him on the show. I've been on the show before, and he just viciously attacks me now and starts making stuff up. And it's really creepy to see somebody totally join the dark side. Because you can be a liberal or a conservative, and I can disagree with you about something, but when you get so basically, just to get this right, because I'm going to go find it and do a story on it, because this is a big deal. They're trying to blame Rush Limbaugh too for this. And again, folks, even if you don't like Rush Limbaugh, if they can demonize the First Amendment and talk show host, they can have a chilling effect and go after us all. That was on MSNBC. You're telling me, it was also on NBC, national TV, you're telling me that he was saying that basically this culture of guns, Alex Jones, implying somehow, that we're causing the culture, or am I wrong there? And then implying I'm a cult leader like David Koresh?
Yeah, and pulling us, out of making us out of whole cloth about the conspiracy kooks out, taking advantage of this incident to, try to put out a lot of various conspiracy